Hey, welcome everyone to the Archicad User Monthly Training Webinar for May 2023. My name is Eric Bobrow. Let me know that you can hear me and see the screen and see my webcam image, and we'll get started. You can use the GoToWebinar questions area. I'll be checking that. Let us know where you're calling in from as well. It's always interesting to see that. And if you're in the Archicad coaching program, you can use the Slack workspace for that. So I do see Mario from Rio de Janeiro, Tom. All right, Tom Marcunas, Paul, I think you're up in Oregon, maybe. Ian from Scotland, all right. So we're already got 3 continents. Michael from Maine, Richard from Bermuda, so we're getting to the Caribbean. Oren from Middletown, Connecticut. All right, so I'm not sure whether we'll get anybody from Australia. It's, I think, like 6 in the morning there, but maybe we'll get some of them. All right, so today's session is an open clinic. Ask me your Archicad questions. I'll give you some help. I'll do my best to help you get the most out of Archicad. So hi, Jimmy. Nice to see you. Well, I don't see you, but you see me. All right, and Rob from the UK. All right, glad to have you online. All right, so we have a small group right now, about 30, and I'm sure there'll be a few more coming in during this session. I'm going to look for questions that were sent in ahead of time, but if you sent in a question ahead of time, please type it in to the questions area. Let me know what you'd like me to address if you sent it in ahead, or if you just have a question you haven't sent in but you'd like me to focus on. So I'm going to look. I know that Steve Pribble sent in something. I was seeing if he actually sent in a file. And he's got an archive file. Okay, let me see. Are you on the line here? So this, because we can turn on microphones for people selectively. How do I do this here? So Steve, all right, he's not logged in yet, but he did send me a file, so I'll get that. He had a question about quantity takeoffs, and so we're going to take a look there. Let's see, Angie from Dublin. All right, okay. So what questions can I help you with? And let me just check if there's anything else that was sent in. Okay, no, not there. Let me check in our Slack workspace to see if somebody's going to be in there. It's just, okay, nothing there. All right. So I'm going to open up Steve's file and see what that has, and hopefully Steve will get on shortly. So let's see here. He had a question about quantity takeoffs. So we're going to say open this file. And let me download it here. So see WeTransfer for archives. So let me see if I got an email. Yeah, there's the archive file. No. So Steve said that he sent a WeTransfer file, but I haven't seen it come in yet. But he is asking about the volume of brick and the volume of, I guess, brick and of concrete and the top surface of slate. So on surface area, yeah, of the slate. So, I'd be happy to take that. Hopefully Steve will log in shortly. Excuse me, and get the file over to me. Okay, Connie, you have a question about walls not cleaning up. So I'm going to open up your line and we can talk about that and maybe give you some clues. So Connie, you're in Colorado, your line is open. You just have to click on the green, on the microphone button, turn it green, and then we might be able to hear you. So Connie, I'm waiting for you to click on your mic. In the meantime, I'll wait for Steve to get in here. Still not in. So Connie, hopefully you're going to be able to activate your microphone, because I've opened it up. Oh, let me open it again because it looked like it got, so Connie. Okay,
Is
I
it
see,
open?
yes, it is. All right,
Great, thank you.
great. So you're in
Um,
Colorado, you have a question about walls not cleaning up. Tell me the context, and
okay.
if you can
I'm
send me
using,
a file, it'll maybe helpful.
oh, okay, it'll take me a minute to send the file, but I'm using the wall tool to build a 1x4 baseboard.
Mm-hmm.
And when I come to external corners and internal corners, the joints aren't cleaning up. They always butt.
Okay. So so these are baseboards that are sort of attached or sitting next to the main walls. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So I can try to make it happen and then discuss it, or if you can send me a file through either Dropbox or WeTransfer, you send a link to it, then I'd be happy to download it, and then we can see it in context. Um,
Okay. It'll
so
take me a minute to upload the file.
Okay, well, go
So,
ahead, get that started. While you're doing that, I'm just going to talk a little bit in general about wall cleanup and some of the things that can affect this type of issue. So let me just draw, while we're waiting here, just a box of 4 walls here. Okay, and now let's see, you can see, and let me just draw another individual wall here. Okay, so we have a corner. It looks legitimate. We've got cladding and some sort of framing. We're not showing the interior. This intersection looks funny. Why? Because it's an interior one and this cladding is extending further. Normally you would have this be a separate type of wall. It might go on a different layer here, and it might be made out of something different. It might be, let's say we have wall gypsum here, something like that. Okay, so I just changed that to an interior double-sided wall, and we can see that Archicad automatically switched and stopped making the drywall fit in here. Now, if I take these 2 walls and say, let's make them not generic here, where they're only got the cladding and framing, but we make them something more specific, let's say like something with siding here. All right, we can see that this wall now pulls back because the outer wall has gotten thicker and the drywall is wrapping because it recognizes that they're the same building material there. So Archicad is pretty smart about adjusting things based on what you do. Now it's using, so by the way, how's it going, Connie, with getting the file uploaded?
I'm trying to save it and listen to you at the same time, and it's not working. I've got it right here, and I can put it in my Dropbox folder.
Yeah, if you put it in your
And you
Dropbox
get a link.
and then send me the link, and you should be able to paste in the link as a comment in your, and go to webinar here, and then I should be able to just copy that link and download the file. What version of Archicad are you using?
26.
26. Okay, so I'll just stay in 26 for that. And again, for all of you who are watching, please let me know if you have questions that I can help you with. You can just type them in to the GoToWebinar questions area. If you want to send me a file, you can do that with a Dropbox link or with something like WeTransfer.com, which provides a free service for transferring large files. I'm waiting to see if Steve Pribble has shown up. I know I talked to him about 45 minutes ago. Yeah, Steve is on the line. So Steve, what I see is you said see WeTransfer for file, and okay, now that WeTransfer came in, it's 4 minutes ago, so I will download that. So I'll get that ready while, because that's going to take, your question will probably take quite a bit longer than Connie's, so I'll start with Connie's here. So I'm getting the WeTransfer, download this file, and Grinnell archive. And I know you said that you were working in 26, so we'll have I'll open that in 26. And then we'll talk about quantities. All right, so hopefully that is downloading. So Connie, how's it going there?
I can't figure out how to copy a Dropbox link from one computer and put it onto another. So I'm just.
Okay, well, if you right click on the link, and get it to the clipboard, then you can put it into an email and you can send it to my support, support@bobrow.com. Or if you have something like Slack between the two computers, or any other shared things, like I sometimes have, Evernote, and I have it open both on my phone and my computer, and I can update a note. But if you just want to email me at support@bobrow.com, that link.
Okay, I've lost the file, so I'm sorry.
You've lost the file?
I tried to put it in Dropbox and it's not there. So I don't know what happened.
Okay.
I've got a VPN copy on the desktop I can try.
So when you say you thought you put it into Dropbox, you just dragged it into a Dropbox folder?
Yes.
Okay.
And
now it's not showing in that Dropbox folder?
It's not showing. I do see the BPN file in the Dropbox folder. So I can do that as a
share. Has the same issue, then I can address the issue using that. A VPN is the same as a PLN, it's just the earlier version. Like if you saved it last night and then you were working on it today, it might be last night's version. Or if you saved it earlier today and then just now, then it might be the one from earlier today. So it's a fully legitimate file. It's just usually not the current one. So let's see.
Send to support@bobrow.com.
Support@bobrow.com. Yep. All right. So let me go. And while I'm waiting for you, I'm going to go and open up Steve's. So I have that handy.
Good juggling.
What was that?
Good juggling.
Yeah. Well, want to keep things moving. So let me open up Steve's line here. Come on. Steve. Unmute. There we go. All right. So Steve, your line is open. And so Steve, if you want to click on your microphone icon, we can say hello.
Hey, Eric.
Hey, Steve. So I'm getting your file. Hopefully it opens up okay. Yep, looks like it's a nice little project here. Okay. So we can definitely look at some of the basics of getting quantities from elements, and totals and reports. So
yeah, it's mostly an exterior project, and couple of materials that, like the concrete slab, which has a surface that I'd like to get the area of, and then like the volume of the bricks, or I don't know exactly how the bricks would be, what the takeoff would be, but I think volume could be converted into number of bricks.
Okay, I will be happy to look at that. Let's just, I'm getting Connie's file downloaded. At least,
Okay.
Yeah, it is downloading. It says it'll be done in a few seconds. So we'll get hers open because wall cleanup should be able to handle that within a few minutes. And yours will take longer. So let's go, say open Connie's file. It's just about done. West Fork current, and of course it's the VPN, so it's not current, but it is the current project. So let's see. So we're going to open this. I'll launch a new instance. So I keep my sort of demo little file open as well. So hopefully this will work with Connie's. So Connie, you're referring to baseboards And so you're drawing them with the wall tool, which is fine. Sometimes it's helpful to use the beam tool, excuse me, to differentiate the cleanup between the walls and the main walls and the baseboard, which are accessories to the walls. You can also, depending on what the issue is, we'll see. Now we've got your file open. So where should I look? Is this particular area show?
Anywhere on it's easiest to see on those little closets on the right-hand side of the lower level floor plan. There are a lot of small rooms.
Yeah, like in here. And you're saying like these things are, doing a T intersection rather than wrapping. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, and I can't see your screen anymore. I don't know. Oh, there it is. Okay, yeah, that's exactly it.
Okay, so I'm just gonna go and do a little marquee here so we can see this in 3D and understand it. So I'm using the marquee tool with the thin marquee, which means it'll only show this story, so that is pretty guaranteed to be visible. I'll be able to understand it in 3D, show marquee in 3D. All right, so obviously it's just a little slice here, and I think this is what we're looking at. Whoops. Now, so this is a baseboard. This little piece here is obviously a whole different thing, right? So I wouldn't want it to be a T intersection. It would, I wouldn't want it to be a corner. It's actually butting into a vertical, right?
Can you spin that around? It might be on the back side where the.
Well, this is what I'm looking at here. So this is a vertical. This is a horizontal. That's appropriate. Let's look at somewhere else. Like here, this looks like it might be two baseboards. So
correct.
All right, so we'll just do again, marquee, show this. We're looking at an odd angle. All right, so here we've got this. Now, we can see something interesting in 3D, that they're not cleaning up to each other, they're passing through each other. Now, this one you can see is actually going through to the other side there. This one is stopping. Okay, you can see the blue line here, the blue line there. So if I take these two and say I want to intersect them, you can see how now the blue lines meet. Now we're still seeing, a cross through, but let's see what happened on the plan here. And if I select this, we can see they're now stopping at each other. Now, let's just check some settings. So this is going from 1/4 inch off the floor, I guess, and it's 4 inches high. And this one, same setting, okay. Now, this is what order these on a layer. They're on baseboard and casing here. And I imagine this is also baseboard and casing. Now, what about this wall here? The main wall it is sitting next to, its wall exterior. Now you see this little number here. It says 1. That's the layer intersection group. And if I open up the layer dialog, we can see the ones. No, that's your name. I'm sorry, that's the name that you've got. But this is the layer intersection group. This, in earlier versions of Archicad, would have been over in this area, but now for some reason, they've moved some of these icons around in 26. Anyway, when things are, when their layer group is the same number, like 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, these things will attempt to clean up to each other, or at least be looking to see if anything else on that group would clean up. Zeros, I think, may be a special case where it won't clean up any of them if it's on a 0. I'm used to mainly putting them on 1, 2, 5, some positive number, and saying all the 5s will clean up and all the 1s will clean up to each other, but not between them. The 0s, I think there may be a special rule there. So let's just see, what is your baseboard 1? The baseboard and casing is on 0. All right. So let us just say, what if we were to put this as a 1. Actually, let's put it as a 2. So it's not the same as the main walls, but it's not a 0. Say okay. See, now they clean up,
Oh,
right? Okay.
yeah.
Now I'm going to go double click on, well, actually, let's go to a view. What, are we in one of the views? I don't see an active view here. So let me go to, what would this be? Is this like lower level plan?
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to double click on this. If this is set up to be, you know, this view and it does not have a zoom associated with it, we'll stay in the same position, but we may see some changes here. So let's say lower level plan, double click. Yeah, you can see how that is no longer looking, you know, usable or correct or there. The reason is that when I activated the view and I go to the settings, we are going to a layer combination called floor plan without furniture, which is just fine. But that floor plan without furniture, if I open up the layer dialog, floor plan without furniture, has the baseboards on 0. So remember, I changed it to a different number and it solved the
Yeah.
problem. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on 2, and you'll see the update button become available. Say, hey, I'd like to make that a 2. So on this layer combination, you know, the baseboards will be on 2 rather than 0. Now, we probably don't want it to be on 0 anywhere, just because baseboards should clean up to each other. You know, they shouldn't, you know, do what we saw there. Now you have some other ones that are 2, 2, 2. It doesn't matter whether it's 1, 2, 5, 100, or 1,000. Any number will work, but basically anything that's on the 2, 2, 2 layer group, if I go to 3D without plants, we'll see now the baseboards are isolated from other things, but they are cleaning up to each other. So we could use the 2, 2, 2 as our standard rather than 2. And I can go here and do 2, 2, 2, and you'll see this updates. Now notice that when I did it here, there was no update button. It automatically was updating it as I click, and it put it in here. Now, if we wanted it to be 2, 2, 2 for all of these, you know, I can go, I think I can select multiple ones from here, let's say down to this, and then type in, and any one of them, well, actually, can we do this? I know you can, if I'm in that, when I click on it, it doesn't let me edit it. Let's see. Oh, now, okay, so I've got these highlighted. Now it's letting me do this 2, 2, 2, and you'll see all of them update. So, you know, this is a way that you could do it. I guess if I highlighted, you know, a bunch of them and then 2, 2, 2, now they're all right. Now, in general, it's probably good to leave the layer group, intersection group alone for, you know, or have it be consistent. Let's say if we go to floor framing, you see, well, you have some ones, some zeros. I don't know why you're doing this. The ones are saying clean up framing. The zeros are saying in these ones, framing should not clean up. I don't know why you're doing that, but
I
this
don't
is
either.
clearly in your template. So let's just say now, if I go back to the one, what was it? The floor plan without furniture. This is the one that we were in. I'll just say okay. So now, of course, this is cleaned up. So if I double click on this, no change. If I go to lower level electrical, those disappear because the layer is turned off. Doesn't matter that they're on 2, 2, 2. If I go to, do you have a lower level plan? You don't have a lower level exterior doors and windows. There, so this one also is cleaning up. It's showing somewhat different, you know, layers, you know, so maybe you're not showing interior stuff as much. So anyway, that's the key thing, is just that the layer intersection group has to be non-zero if you want them to clean up to each other. And if you don't want them to get confused with, let's say, the main walls for something like an accessory, then you may need to put it on a, you know, a different layer group. The main walls would be typically on layer intersection group 1. The others, any other number will do other than 0.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other questions that I can help you with?
I think that was it. It was
Right.
haunting me.
All right, so that's little lesson on when things clean up. Oh, the other thing that I saw here was that you had, when I first did it, so this was, it was extending over to here. Okay, so let me just eyedrop this here. And let's say that if I draw this baseboard to here, okay, cleaned up to that particular element, not that you would ever put a baseboard in the middle, but if I draw this to here, where did it go? It went into here, and right now it's not, well, it is doing a clean intersection there. I'm just wondering, I know that we had this extending through in theory. Now, you'll see that it appears that it's just buried in here. I'm not sure if you were to do a quantity thing, like I'm going to be switching over to Steve's question, whether if it does extend through something, whether it's going to count that as quantities. Now, maybe you don't care, the baseboard is not going to be quantified, but just be aware that you want to have these things terminate in the right location. So it turned out that was not the issue in terms of cleanup, but sometimes it affects cleanup as well as quantities.
All right, thank you.
Okay, all right, so I'm going to just send this back to you. Let's see, so I will save as, so you can just study it if you want after coaching here, put it in downloads, and I will reply back afterward. I'll just put it into Dropbox and do that for you. Yeah, so I do see a question just typed in from C. Morgan Boys. So I'm going to call you Morgan. Are there any windows available that are trapezoidal with horizontal top and angled sill? Interesting. Okay. Well, Morgan, I think, you know what, Steve, let me just check with Steve. Your question, Steve, is probably going to take at least half an hour. This one I can probably deal with in 10 minutes. Is it okay, Steve, if I?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right. So let me open up Morgan's line here. Let me see if I can find that. See Morgan Boys. Okay. So your line is open. You can click on the microphone icon to. I see you clicked on it and it's green. Go ahead and talk. Not hearing you. Oh, now I could hear a click, but that might have been somebody else. Morgan, check your audio settings. So in GoToWebinar, there's an option for what microphone you're using, and you may be using something that's not actually connected. Morgan, are you there? I mean, just type in something and let me know that you can hear me. I'm hearing a tap on the microphone. I'm hearing like almost like Morse code, you know, tapping. Are you talking to me? And that microphone, I'm hearing a lot of noise, like you're moving it around. This is odd because I know I've been hearing some stuff. You're playing with your microphone, but I'm not hearing you.
Hello.
There, I hear you now.
Okay.
Okay, it's got a little bit of background noise, but that's fine. So Morgan, let us just take this file here because it's a general question, and I'll just open up. So what version of Archicad are you in?
26.
Okay, all right, so let's look at Windows. When we look at Windows here, now it's interesting, this is 25, so she might be in 26, but using a 25 library, but let me just go here to trapezoid. All right, so we can see there's trapezoid ones that are available. Now you wanted something with a horizontal top and a slanted bottom.
Right.
Okay, so I'm not seeing one listed here, but let's just see. Yeah, so this indicates that you would have an overall height, you know, this in this case, the this is 5 feet high, and then where the lower side is this, so it's not offset. So that's not what you want. Now let's just look if we had, if I just go into windows in general. Actually, let's just do get the trapezoid here, and then turn off the search and click on just the general view within a window. And let's just see if there's something else. Here's a slanted fixed.
Ooh.
Okay, so
Ah.
here's this. So if we put this at 0, then we're going to have what you need.
Awesome.
Okay, so and you can see there are a few different general shapes, but that looks like it probably would do what you need. If I go to straight on view, yeah, it looks like what I would expect.
Okay.
There you go. So slanted fixed. And that's in the US library. And I don't know for any of you who are outside the country, I'm assuming Graphisoft also has a similar one for in the other versions, the metric version, say. All right, so anything else that can help you with, Morgan?
That was it. I was looking for trapezoid, and I guess that was the wrong search.
Yeah, so sometimes you just have to nose around, and I knew that trapezoid would be in a group of windows that had some different shapes called special windows. And so I just did a search for that, then switched from the search mode to the one that was looking in the folder, and then you can see, all the, other ones that are in that folder. So, all right, so I'll move on then if that's okay, Morgan.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So,
I hope my answer is so fast.
well, Steve, I think it's going to take a little bit of investigation, so we will get into it now. But I am going to say again to everybody, thanks for being on the call. If you have a question, whether you sent it in ahead of time or not, just type it in to the questions area. Let me just check Slack to see if anyone in our usual coaching program has put in something. No, I don't see that. And I'm just going to check. Nestor is one of our regulars. He sent in a question. I don't know if he's on this call. He's not. All right, so Steve, you're up next. So let's see here. We'll switch over to your Grinnell file. And
Now, the file, Eric, this file still has old classification system like 22 or something, so it doesn't have that 2.0 classification system installed.
okay. So we don't necessarily need classifications and properties to be current and up to date to do what you're asking. There are going to be some things that, as you know, when you have a template, will say if you set things up once and you set them up with sort of everything current, it'll be easier as you move forward. It'll just definitely save you time from one project to another. But let's just look at some of the basics of quantities that we can pull out. So I'm going to bring up your question here. Let's see, this is so Steve. Okay, so your question here, you want to get from that file the volume of brick, the surface, volume of brick, and you mentioned the surface. So basically anything that's got that surface is what you're interested in. And you also want the volume of concrete, etc., and top surface of the slate. Okay, so let's look at the volume of brick, and we're going to be looking for things that meet the criteria that have a surface of Grinnell brick on them, because you might have other types of brick that you want to quantify separately. All right, so I can see here in your file that we've got, and we're getting, is that your line there?
Yeah, can you cut my mic?
Yeah, okay, so that is so it's, trying to see. Kind of muted her own mic, which is good, that's fine. Okay, so this element that I've got on screen at the moment is a wall on a layer called patio 5 BNS patios and decks, and it's got a It's made out of brick common, so it's just sort of a generic brick thing, and it's got a surface that says the Grinnell brick. So Grinnell, I guess, is the name of your project.
Right.
Okay, so this is clearly one of the things that you want to quantify. Now
Right.
let's look first at something that is illustrative, but will only give you a small piece of the larger picture. And that is under the palettes menu, we have something called element information. Now, it sometimes gets confused with the info palette, which currently is across the top of my screen. This element here, its information is it's got an ID, it's a wall, it's on a layer, etc. That's information about it. But element information here, oh, it says, well, there's a wall. Or maybe there's 4 walls selected because you have groups active and I selected one of them, 4 walls. Now, if I say that I'd like to look at more information, you can see that when I click here, more information comes up, and I should be able to pull this down. And we'll see, hey, the wall, the length, this is 4 feet 4, this is 4 feet 8, this is 6 feet 6, etc. So there, it's showing me some lengths. And if I click on this, it'll say how much area is on the plan. And if I click here, it'll show some heights and I don't know, where's the volumes? Volume, I think this is the last one. So if I turn off all the other ones, and say that's conditional volume. So what is conditional volume? And let's see, this is volume. This one has surfaces. Let's just leave the conditional volume. So conditional volume might have to do with the volume of something like a wall minus the openings in it, like the doors and windows, as opposed to an overall uncut volume. And there are some different definitions of how it measures it. Now, you could go and select a bunch of things and read these off, but ideally you'd want to select all of them systematically based on, hey, they've got this surface, I'm designating them as this particular type of brick, and you want to have them in a schedule so you can see, how much is there. So let's, I'll close this up because I just wanted to show that you can
That's handy.
some data. And sometimes if you select, like a particular element like this slab, you could pull some data like that without having to set up a schedule. Now let's look at a schedule here because this is what we'll want to do. So we have schedules of elements, and that's what we want here. You could be doing components, which could potentially say how many bricks there are, and you can do surfaces, which would do how much surface area of certain types of surfaces. But right now we're going to do elements. Now, not for begin with, so I can open up and create a new schedule. Here, let's say the equipment schedule is just going to be a simple one, and it lists, a bunch of, ceiling fans and other equipment, right? And it has some totals. Here's some totals. And I don't know, God knows what 1858 is. There's 1858 of something that is not even listed. But what I'm going to do is I'll go to the scheme settings and say, I would like to create a new schedule. So we'll say new, and it's not going to be a duplicate of the equipment schedule. It'll be brand new. And what do I call this? So we're going to call this Grinnell brick. So like that. I don't have to give it an ID. You aren't using IDs right now here, so I'll leave that blank. I'll just say okay. Now, the first thing you do in a schedule is say, what am I listing? Am I listing all types of elements, or am I listing only windows, or only doors, or only, in this case, I think it'll probably be only the walls, because you're using the wall tool for the brick. Now, if you were doing some bricks that were stacked, versus bricks that are horizontal, you may have to do some different schedules to be able to do that. But right now, we'll just assume that these are they all like patio brick or things like that?
Yeah, there's a few top of plinth sort of things that are probably made out of slabs and then use the same material, same surface.
Okay, so we'll have to start with one simple thing and then look at how we can get more complete information if you are using, for example, slabs as well as walls. All right, so we're going to say element type is a wall, but we don't want to list all the walls. We want to add a criteria and say that the surface, so I just type in surface up in the search, and I'm saying, what do I have? Surfaces and materials, building material, edge surface, inside surface, outside surface. So surface and material, surface name. All right, now we'll have to see what this relates to, but I think we might say outside face surface. At least let's try that. Outside face surface, or well, all right, let's just try outside face surface is, and let's pick that Grinnell brick, okay? And so let's assume for now that this may work, that it's saying I'm going to list walls that have this surface. And now what do we want to list here? So we're going to add fields. So first thing, just to see if it works at all, is I'm going to put in ID and say I'd like to list it by ID. So basically every thing that you drew there, every wall element that matches this, we're going to have it listed here. We probably want to see something like the length here, just to be able to verify that we're actually seeing or measuring the right things, even though later all you really care about might be the surface, or actually it might be area. And given that this is horizontal on the plan, I think we want to say top surface area, let's just say top surface area gross. This surface area might have to do with the, for walls, particularly like the face of it, like drywall or cladding, but we're talking about top surface area right now. So, and gross as opposed to net, they might be the same because you're not putting in any doors or windows or cutting holes in it. But I'll just say add. So I've now said, hey, give me a list of all the walls with this surface. For each one, tell me their ID so I can find them and verify that it's measuring things, give me the length. And really what I care about is the surface right now. Now, you were talking about volume, right? Okay, let's just do volume here. All right, so.
Yeah, well, volume, I'll need to do a calculation to convert it to the number of bricks.
Yeah. So if we say volume, I'll just say volume gross. Let's just see that. Okay, so I'm saying, give me some numbers. Say, okay. And we can see that there's a whole bunch of things that came up. So at least it's matching stuff. Let's just change the name here to area and this one to volume. So it's not, overlapping here. And instead of 3D length, since they're all horizontal, I'll just say length there. All right, now if I click on this, I can say, show me that one on the plan or in 3D. So let's just select it in 3D. And well, it selected a bunch of things because we have groups active. I'm going to suspend groups here, clicking on this. So I'll go back to that schedule here. And I'll just select this again and say select that. And that's on plan. Well, all right, that's on plan. So if I measure this, just to see measure from this point to that point, it's 3 feet 1.5 inches. And how thick is this? If I measure this, 5 and probably 5 and an eighth inches. There you have, I don't know why you have it in decimal. But anyway, so that was 3 feet 1.5 inches. And so in the schedule we were just looking at, 3 feet 1.5 inches. Okay. And now it's not showing the area, probably because the area, remember there were a number of different things to choose. I picked something that doesn't relate properly to walls. So this top surface area maybe only applies to things like slabs. So let me go add in fields for area here, and let's just do surface area. Now surface area might be all sides, so I'm not sure, but let's get rid of this one and just put in surface area and move it into that position. All right, so now we are getting area. Now it's measuring it as 900 and 2.67. So we have to sort of figure out, are we getting numbers that are relevant to things? Now, one thing we can do is I always find it easier, is if we draw something that we know it's data and then look at it in the schedule, we can see, is it reporting what we want? So for example, I drop this here. I'll go draw something exactly 1 foot long. Okay. And I'm going to give this an ID of wall, 999. Okay. So that way, when I see it in the schedule, I'll know that, this is the one I'm talking about. Now it's 1 foot long, and it was 5 1/8 inches deep. So what would be the area? 1 foot. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to override the thickness. Just say the instead of this, I'll say that it's going to be 1 by 1. So the top area would be 1 square foot, right?
Right.
So now if I go back in here, that 1 should show up at the end. It's 12 inches long. The volume is 2. So it's a nice even number. So it's measuring something, and 288. So 12 times 12 is 144. So that would be 1 square foot. So it's probably top and bottom area is what it's measuring. And of course, it's measuring it in square inches, which is probably not too useful. But volume is what you care about, right? So how thick was that thing that I just drew? It is -2 feet to 2 feet, so it's 4 feet. Or actually, wait a second, this is height at home offset. So let's say just relative to the current story, it goes from 2 feet down to here. So it's 2 feet thick, 1 foot by 1 foot, so it'd be 2 cubic feet, right? So that report here, 2 cubic feet, does make sense. So you were asking for cubic feet, right? Or volume.
Right.
So would that be useful?
Yeah, that's good.
Now, maybe we don't need the area here, but this appears to be top and bottom area. If I wanted only the top area, then instead of doing surface area here, let's just see if there's an area that we want. So there's top surface area, and there might be surface area of the wall, inside, outside, fire area. Well, let's just see. I thought we had top surface area already, but maybe not. Let's add this. Okay, well, here's the top surface area. That's the, would be the 1 square foot. Now, if we didn't want it to be in inches here, we can go to the, let's see, what is it? Options, project preferences, calculation units. So right now we're talking about this project. How do we want to measure area? Now, unfortunately, this affects all schedules. So, sometimes there are compromises where one schedule you want it to be one way and another schedule you want it to be another way. Right now, let's just say, how would we get this to show square feet rather than square inches? We go to calculation units, we go to area unit. No, not square inches. No, I want it to be square feet. And, we can do it with however many decimal points we want. Say okay. And now you can see it's 1 square foot, right? And the same thing with the length in a schedule. If we wanted to, we go to project preferences, calculation units, and we say the length unit instead of decimal inches is, I'll just put it as feet in fractional inches here. Now it says 1 foot. All right, so it's 1 foot long to, what was this? This is surface area. So let me just, since we don't want the surface area to have top and bottom in this case, I'll remove it and I'll just move this up there. And now we have 1 foot in length, 1 square foot, and 2 cubic feet, because this is a 2 foot thick thing. So that give you what you need?
Yeah, just a matter of manipulating the factors.
Now you, Now we want to have some totals, and let's just see, I also want to freeze the schedule header. So that way, when I scroll down, it's easy to see, this, it doesn't lose it.
All right.
And I want to have some totals. So if I say I'd like to take the volume and click in here, click till it gets a sigma, the sigma says total this up. If I click again, it'll say how many. If I click again, it says don't total. So in this case, I want to total it up because, we want overall here. I don't really, if I wanted to have the length, let's just say how many pieces we have. So if I do this is how many. So, okay. So now we have 32 pieces totaling this much volume.
Well, that's 32 elements, I guess.
32 elements, yes.
Yeah, is there a way to do the computation to convert it to bricks within the schedule?
Not within the schedule, but we can do it in a formula in the properties and then put that formula into the schedule. So that's worth a little bit more exploration here. So let me stop before I move on to see if there are any questions from people who are watching. So I don't see any other ones that have typed in so far, but I invite you to say, hey, how could you do this? Or can you go over such and such again? Or, anything that you might want to, that would be relevant to this, as well as want to put into the queue another question for, when I finish with Steve. I'm happy to help, answer some additional questions. So the thing that you were saying, Steve, related to how many bricks, and you can calculate bricks based on volume. I guess you know that a brick has a certain volume. Obviously, you also need to say, are these bricks touching each other, or is there mortar, et cetera. So you have to have some rule that says, well, for this much volume, this is how I calculate the bricks. So how do you tell Archicad to do that rule? We go to the options menu, and we go to property manager. Now, properties are things that were added into Archicad maybe 19 or 20, so they've been around for a few years now. They are basically ways to either assign data to elements, like you can give text that might be a label or a classification or a description. That could be a property. A property can also be automatically calculated based on some formula. So let's go to the property manager. Now, Archicad does have a whole lot of things built into the standard template. Now, I don't know, you mentioned that you're not using the latest classification system. You'll notice here that whatever your template was, if there's a thing that says, oh, we can calculate bricks based on an option set of, well, what size are these bricks? And assign some things about the bricks here and the mortar, and then it will tell you how many bricks to purchase. So it's actually prepared to do that. All we have to do is tell these elements, A, that they are that they should use these metrics, and B, what those metrics are. Okay, so
Eric, is it listing that brick item because I use the common brick building material?
Okay, so these properties here exist in the standard Graphisoft template. And I'm just going to say, how can we use these properties to get some data out? So Graphisoft provides this. They can be customized. Let's just see how we use it. So the first thing to know is that all of these properties for bricks are available when you tell them, when you say that the element you're drawing with is an Archicad wall. Okay, well, all right, well, you were drawing with the wall tool. That's fine. You can also say, if it was a slab, you could say, oh, it's a construction element. Then it could potentially apply. So you have to classify these elements. Then it will do some expressions here. Now, this is a long code thing, but it's basically saying, depending on what you pick here, we're going to pick out what is the horizontal size? 3 5/8, or widths 2 1/4, or length, etc. So this is, I guess that H would be height there. And it'll calculate the volume by multiplying, the brick plus mortar in each dimension here. And then it'll do a division. You can see the slash here. It'll take the volume divided by the brick volume and say, oh, you have this much overall volume. We're dividing it by the brick volume, and that'll give us a number, and it's rounding it up to say, you don't buy part of a brick, you buy, the next piece. So let's just see how would we, how do we get this data in here? So I haven't made any changes here. I'm going to go and select all of the bricks on the plan. Now, how would I select all of these bricks on the plan? Well, I'm going to go to the edit menu, find and select, and say that I'd like to select a bunch of things that I'm looking at. I say, oh, well, I'd like to select walls. If I say plus, you can see there's 161 walls. Some of them are brick things. Some of them are actual structural walls. Okay, I don't want that. I want to be more specific. So I'll hit the escape key and I'll add a criteria. Just like I did in the schedule, I'll say I want that the surface here, the, I think it was outside face surface, is, we had Grinnell brick. Now I'll hit the plus, and you see now it's finding that. I could have said all walls on a certain layer, and that might be sufficient as well. Let's just zoom out. Looks like it probably is the right stuff. So we'll just go on with that. So now I've selected these, and what do I want to do with them? Well, it says that you've got 29 elements, walls selected, and I'm going to go into the wall settings. So I'll open this up. Now in the wall settings, in addition to things like what is it made of, what is it colored, or what's the surface look like, what are its dimensions, we have something here called classification and properties. Now if I go down in here, we'll see that right now it says that it is an Archicad classification 20, it's a wall. Now remember those the properties that I was looking at said the brick rules are available if you have an element that's Archicad 22 properties is a wall. Right now this isn't classified. I'm going to say take all of these and make them something here. I'll just type in wall. Now actually they aren't actually walls, are they? They're they're construction elements. So I'm going to do construction element because I think that was actually eligible. So I just need to tell it in this system that it should be something that could be measured. Now, once I do that, we'll see down in this area that bricks are available. Now, what size are these bricks, Steve?
Oh, I hadn't gotten that far yet.
All right, so we'll just leave it as standard, but you can pick different ones here. And then we'll leave the mortar thickness 3/8 of an inch there. It will calculate the volume and it'll calculate the number of bricks to purchase. Okay, so it'll do all of that just by telling it that these are a certain type of element, that they are construction elements. Now let's look at the schedule here. So all I did was just give them a classification. Now we're not seeing any new data here because we have to go into the scheme settings and say, I would like to report on something here. So let's say that I want to do, let's see, brick here. And I'll say, there is, well, there's brick volume, there's brick, these things, brick type and measures. Excuse me. Number of bricks expression. I do want to end up with the number of bricks to purchase, but I wanted to see if I bring in both of these. Actually, let's do all of these here. Let's say add them. So I'm saying bring in a few pieces of this data, and we'll say okay. And let's see what it does. All right, now we can see there's some data here. There's some stuff that's a little hard to read because it's just wider. Okay, so remember you said, I don't know what type of rig, I haven't thought about it, or I don't know, have that data, but this is what it's reporting because that was the default. So it says, all right, unless you tell me otherwise, I'll just assume it's a standard brick type. Now it says that the brick volume in relative to, calculated for this, relative to cubic feet is this, and then it'll need 371 bricks here, 79 there, 80, etc. If we want to, let's say number bricks here, and let's just brick volume. All right, now let's go to the scheme settings and say, I would like to total up how many bricks. You would need 3,459 bricks. Based on,
That's perfect.
okay. All right, so now why are some of these, excuse me, showing in the schedule, but they're not showing, but they, they don't have any data here. Well, let's just see. If I select this wall here and I say, well, let's just go find it on the plan. It's this one, all right. So this is a wall. I open up the settings for the wall. It is here. For some reason, that one wasn't included in my, when I said make it a construction element in this system, probably because that layer was turned off or, something like that, or it's a different story. It's on the foundation story rather than, the ground floor, something like that. So if I go and say this is a construction element, then when I go back to that schedule, that one will be clear. So the ones that are not, do not have this, these are, in fact, there's only, looks like there is just one other element or a couple other elements there. So I could just highlight this here, find it, change the setting to say, you know what, that is made of the right type of thing. I just need to classify it, go back in. Now there's only one left, classify it here. Now the default when as soon as I check this is that it's a construction element and that's eligible for the calculations. So now we should have something, and we had 3,400 and now we have 3,506. So there were a few more of that type. So we don't have to report in the schedule that they're all the same type of brick. You can just have that as a note or whatever. We don't have to report on the brick volume here. This is the volume of each brick, and that was just sort of data. And length is probably not too relevant because these are areas that are going to be filled, right? But if you did want to have edging, right, if those are sort of edge conditions where you have two bricks going along and you have some sort of edging thing next to it, then this length could be useful.
Right.
So how's that?
That's good. It's like I said, it's a different way to think about things and factors and conditions I don't usually deal with in Archicad.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So this is totaling up walls based on those walls being eligible. Now, if I wanted to, you said that you had some slabs that were that you had drawn, right? With this?
Yeah, I think there's a couple slabs that are
All right,
made
so
out
I'm
of.
going to go to the scheme settings and I'll say that in addition to being walls, I want to say, hey, what if we were to do, what is it? Main element type here. And I'll say, well, it could be a slab, all right? Now, it can't be a wall and a slab. It has to be an or. and I'll just move this one next to it. So it'll be a wall or a slab, but I definitely want it to have the surface be brick. Now, in order to sort of group it properly, I need to use like algebra type parenthesis. So it's a wall or a slab and the surface is brick. Now, outside face surface may not be the right thing because, in other words, slabs may have a different way of thinking about surfaces than walls. So let's just see, first of all, if it adds in any slabs. So I don't see any change here. We're still seeing the same 32. So let's say that maybe it's not outside face surface. Let's go add a criteria and just surface. So let's just say it's surface contains, interesting. Okay, well, let's just see. So we want the Grinnell brick. And let's just remove this one. All right, so I'm saying that the surface contains this, and that maybe that means, you know, top, bottom, side, you know, any of those surfaces has this designation. Let's just see if that works. We're still seeing the same thing. I'm just going to go to the view, refresh, rebuild, just to make sure. Oh, here's 34. There, it did work with that. And here are the two slabs. Okay. So the slabs don't have a length. They have perimeter, but they do have area, volume, and, oh, they don't, those slabs haven't been classified yet to get bricks. So if I select the slab and again go and say, find the slab, you know, here's your piece of slab, and I'll go into its setting, properties, and I'll say that it is in the Archicad 22 system. Let's call it a construction element. Go back in here. Now, I'm not sure whether I saved it. Did I do that? Let's see. Let's do this one here. This is here, go in. It is construction element. So it is that. Okay, so I think that the property has to be refined a little bit. So what do I mean by that? Earlier, I had gone to the options menu, property manager, and I'd shown you how bricks were available for calculation. But you notice that this says it's only looking at, well, actually, no, it's looking at anything that's classified as a construction element. So it should be eligible there. And I'm just gonna flip through these. Yeah, so there, if it says that it's a construction element, it should be eligible there. So I don't need to change that. Why is the slab not showing? If I go into this slab, it's a construction element. And it says that it, you know, has a certain size there. It is there. Okay, so why isn't it showing? Let me just do a refresh on this schedule. Maybe it just has to think a little bit more. Refresh, rebuild. Why is it not having the brick type here? Oh, actually, one of them did. The other one didn't. So I guess one of them has worked. Go in here, and this one, yeah, this one wasn't. So now it is working, but sometimes it seems like you have to refresh the schedule, rebuild it. And now we can see that the slabs, while they don't have a length, you are able to pull this, and you could actually choose a different brick type right here. But you probably want to do it just, you know, selecting a bunch of elements at the same time. But here's, this is going to use 48 bricks, that's going to use 48 bricks. And now we have 3,600. So the schedule could be simplified. It could just, you know, be how many bricks for each one. You don't have to list this, but then again, you're probably just going to have this and say, hey, my calculation shows 3,602. You know, let's order 4,000, we'll have enough, or well, let's order 3,650 and we know we'll have enough.
Yeah, good.
All right. So let's see. A question or a comment from Jimmy Cooper. I noticed it was an existing element. Would that make any difference? So Jimmy, let's open your line. Let's just talk about that question here. So Jimmy, your line is open.
Hello, Eric.
Where are you calling in from, Jimmy?
Los Angeles.
Oh, okay. Steve is in LA as well.
Yeah, he can-
So that's Jimmy Cooper and Steve Pribbert. Nice to.
Hi, Steve.
All right, you said.
By the way, before I continue, you look great. It's been a long time I've seen you. I know you had last time I was with you, you had a little scare, but I see that you look really good, and that's pleasing to me. But I'm sorry. Just wanted to throw that in. Thank you. Like,
Yeah,
good seeing you.
I'm feeling healthy. I lost almost 20 pounds since, so those of you who may not know, I had a heart attack 2 years ago, almost to the day. It was in mid-May of 2021. And I'm short of breath, like I can't catch my breath. They put in 5 stents, which for those of you who don't know, are like they go in through an artery. Literally, there's a little tube that goes in through, for me, my wrist. They did not open up my chest, but inside my body, they were running this little, device that was able to literally put in, open up the arteries, specific arteries, and allow the blood flow. And the stent is sort of a little semi-rigid tube that sort of keeps the artery open. So they put in 5 of them, which is a bunch, like probably more common for people to need 1 or 2 or 3, but I needed 5. So I immediately could breathe a lot better. And of course, I've gotten a lot more exercise, lost weight, and I'm feeling good. So 69 and feeling fine.
You look great. You look great. Good to see you, Eric. No, I was just basically saying, but you answered the question like all gurus do before you even got to me. I saw where it said when you were doing the bricks and the classifications, an area where it said it was existing, and that didn't seem to matter after the question. But then it dawned on me: is there a way to specify what's in the schedule, what's existing and what's new, in terms of giving you the count?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the scheme, first of all, you can do a criteria. Let's say that we only wanted new brick. We're modeling with things and we want to show that there's some exist and then we're adding new, and maybe we're making them out of the same stuff, but we just designate this as new. So you could say that I'd like to go into renovation. So renovation status. So double click on that. It says, all right, we want to measure just the new stuff. Okay. So that would say we want to schedule just of the new things. Now we could, instead of doing that, if I remove it, I could say I'd like to add a field and then say renovation status. And then the renovation status could show, and we could group them based on that. Now, if I move this to the top, then I can sort based on existing versus new, possibly demo as well. So here I've now got this, and we'll scroll over and we can see, here's existing,
Nice.
new. Now, if I wanted to get separate totals based on existing and new, then I could go to the renovation status and do a flag here by clicking once or twice here. And that says, break up the report based on this as a grouping mechanism. Now you can see existing, there are 32 elements, there are 2 new slabs. Now, of course, Steve may not have, they may not be accurate being these are existing, these are new, but that's what it's sorting as.
Nice.
And it does have the calculations, so number of bricks is not being totaled based on, that's interesting. So we have the overall, okay, I must have lost the number of bricks purchased. I guess I don't know what happened there. So we do this. yeah, now we can see 3,500 existing, 96 new, and total of 3,602. So anyway, that's how you would do it if you wanted to do both. Otherwise, you could do a criteria saying, I only want to list the new stuff.
Nice, thank you.
So Eric, the little ornaments or options or things like the little flag in the in the schedule there, are those defined in the manual someplace as to how to do all that?
Yeah, if you look in the area that describes interactive schedules, you'll see this. So the first row here is sorting. So basically, it'll sort by the first column and then by the next one and then the next one. Now, in this case, a whole lot of them are existing, and then some of them were new. So that was the primary one. Then the next one was the element ID. If they're all different ones, it'll sort, all of those. And then if you had multiple ones that had the same element ID, it would sort based on length, etc. Just like when you have a phone, the old phone book, you'd have all the Smiths would be together, and then you'd be sorting by first name, etc. Now the second row here, when it's blank, it's not totaling anything up. When it has a sigma and a 1, it's a count, how many of these. And when you just have a plain sigma, it's how many in total or how much in total. And then the flag is a way of grouping things. And you could say, I want to group it by story, or I want to group it as you change from one type of thing to another. In this case, changing from existing to new, it's going to group those things. I think you can only do one flag. In other words, the thing will just break it up based on one criteria. I don't think if I click on another one here, you can see how the flag only moves to one there. And I'm just clicking on it once or twice, or each time I click, it cycles through. I click, it turns on or off. With the sigmas, it goes off, sigma, and sigma 1, and then off again. And for these things, I can turn off this sort. I can turn the sorting in the other direction. Sometimes you want small to large, large to small, or you can turn it off entirely. It's really not getting here because all of these have different element IDs, so it's not even looking at these things. But you can clean that up if you want by just clicking multiple times until it disappears and say, all I really care about is sort by renovation status and sort by the element ID. Now, if you wanted to sort by the number of bricks, that would be another one. So let's just say I sort by that. So say that I'm going to sort by renovation status, and then the elements that have the most bricks will be at the top. So I say, okay. See, it has resorted, and the ones now, I'm not sure why. Oh, it looks like it's going up. I have it going from small to large there. So let me go the sort for the brick. That's interesting. So I guess going down means it starts from the beginning of the alphabet to the end, or number 1 to going a higher number. If I do this way direction, now, yeah, this is lots of bricks going down there.
All right, cool. Yeah, a lot of capabilities there. I have to figure it out.
Okay, so let's just talk about the other ones. I'm happy to take other questions that people type in. And I do see a comment from an old friend, an old client named Ron Remiga, who says, my sister helped invent that medical device, the one that I was referring to, which is a stent. So that is amazing. Now, I know my brother, who's 9 years older than me, has some stents. I don't know if it's 2 or how many, and my cousin as well. They both got them early on, like in the 90s. So I think the technology probably came out in the 90s. That's just my understanding. So interesting, Ron, that your sister was involved in that. I'm just going to open up your line just so you can say hello as well. So Ron, your line's open. So Ron just, no. So anyway, Ron is another one of my LA clients. So some of you, well, certainly some of you know because you were based in LA, and when I was working there, others may not, but for more than 15 years, I was a reseller for Archicad in Los Angeles. And so certainly a lot of my clients were based in that area. Nowadays, I work in Northern California, but, reach out to people all around the world. So Ron, your line is open.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, my sister started with ACS, I think, in the late 80s, and they invented the angioplasty, and the stent was part of the angioplasty development.
Wow. And is she still alive?
Yeah, she is.
All right. Is she still active in medical research?
No, she got married to a guy in the company, and then they quit the company and got married. She originally started out as a nurse, and because she played the piano and sewed and all that, her dexterity and eye coordination was so great. The doctor had her, sew up arteries and stuff in heart surgery, and the ACS representative was watching, and he goes, "You need to quit nursing and come work for us."
Wow. Wow.
And so she would take the experimental equipment, and they would do their experiments in Europe because they couldn't do them in America. And then she'd come back and write a report for the engineers. And so she helped more on the experimental development part of it.
Wow. Amazing. Now, I wouldn't say it's a coincidence, but interesting coincidence. Just in the last few days, somebody mentioned to me, actually it's our son. So our son is 33. He's in Ireland right now in a graduate program in music, but he happened to have seen a movie that came out, might have been 20 years ago, I don't know, called Something the Lord Made. And I'll tell you this, it's worth the 60-second story. So apparently one of the pioneers of open heart surgery was a doctor, I can't remember his name now, but this was in the 30s perhaps. And he had an assistant. So this was a doctor in the US. His assistant was a black man who apparently was actually a janitor or worked in, the hospital. I don't know how he got involved. I haven't seen the movie, but apparently he helped on the operations with, what do you call it, doing the sewing things up. And this, you can imagine, I think they started with dogs, but in terms of testing out how to open up, and do things without killing the patient. And apparently he was so good at his fine dexterity that when the doctor was feeling the way that things were sewn up, he said, "This is so smooth. It's like something the Lord made," right? So that's the name of the movie. And, it's an interesting thing because the black guy was, he had a lot of discrimination there. And it wasn't until the 70s that he got recognized as essentially like a co-creator of open heart surgery. So anyway, your sister certainly had an easier time helping out, in that medical research thing, but strange coincidence that I just happened to, learn about this other historical thing about hearts. So,
Yeah, like you said, it was kind of funny to go from piano playing and nursing, and then developing medical devices.
Right.
You never know what your path in life's going to lead to.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so I see a couple of comments here, questions. So Mackenzie, nice to see you on the call. And you said another trick, helpful way to sort by multiple things is to add a header with first or second items listed. So yeah, thank you for pointing that out, Mackenzie. So for example, we don't need to have the word existing over and over again, right? So what we can do is we can say, show a headline, and you see now it just says existing, and we can scroll down and here's new. So much cleaner there. And the headline, we can say, is it the first field or more than one? Now, in this case, all of these are, distinct. So saying that we want the first two isn't going to work. It'll be actually rather odd. You can see is not helping there. But if we had groups of ones that were the same, then we could have existing wall 28, several existing something else. So that's a great way of sorting. So I guess then you can actually have different subtotals based on headlines as well. So good point, Mackenzie. Rob Hancock's comments. As always, Eric, again, learned something new out of this session. So I do have a general question regarding whether or not I should bother signing up for the next version of Archicad 27. This year, we Apple users eventually saw the ARM version of Archicad 26. I've appreciated the speed bump, but do I think there's anything new and upcoming in 27 that would be worth signing up for? Good question. So by the way, I'm on a new MacBook Pro that I bought in March that has the ARM. So this is the new Apple Silicon. So Apple has been developing its own chips for the iPhones for years and then started to deploy them in Macs. And they definitely have done some great work with optimization for processing and graphics, as well as energy usage, which came originally from the focus on mobile. When you have your phone doing complicated things, you don't want it to drain the battery too fast. So Apple engineering done a great job with developing very efficient use of power. So all of that being said, Archicad supports the Apple Silicon, or an ARM is a term for, I don't even quite know what it stands for, but it's for a certain type of processor that's in contrast to the standard, what is it, Pentium, what is the standard one made by, now I can't even remember. There's more of anyway, it's a tech thing. I'm very happy. My computer is performing much better than my previous one, which was only 3 years old. So that's great. The fact that Graphisoft put in the effort to support that, not surprising, because we have a lot of Mac users in the Archicad world. Very good, gratifying that they've done a good job on that. And so hooray, we can take advantage of the power, and next time you get a new Mac, you can have Archicad run faster. Now, what about 27? I don't know what's in 27. I did sign up. They had an opportunity for people to sign up saying, would you like to be part of the preview program for Archicad 27? I signed up a few weeks ago. I've not gotten any notice of like, oh, you're going to get a version to test out tomorrow. But I assume at some point, I, as well as dozens or hundreds of people, will be able to try it out before it goes live to the bulk of the users. At that point, I'll know better. That being said, at some point, maybe at the same time as they said that we have a preview program you can sign up for, they had a roadmap. So Graphisoft published a roadmap. If I'd be interesting just to pull that up here. So excuse me. So if I go to Graphisoft Archicad roadmap, comes up here, roadmap. All right, so what it it gives a little context, what's in the pipeline, and they say we're dividing it into coming soon. We're actively working on these things that are in progress that'll take longer, and then things are in research and things that are idea pool. So I'm assuming if it says coming soon, most likely it'll be in 27. Now, it may not be. They may have something coming soon and then decide, oh, it's not working, it's broken, it's whatever. But I'm going to guess if it says coming soon, it probably is. Now, I click on the heading, coming soon, and we can see some things here. All right, now the one thing that caught my eye is design options. So if you look just even at this little graphic, this building has a double, I don't know if it's a sliding door and a single door, or glazing has a double door here, and a tall window, so this wouldn't be openable. etc. So these are different variations of, clearly the same size footprint, different roof lines, different glazing, etc. So if you think about all the times that you've been experimenting with, whether it's facade, stuff like this, or floor plan layouts, and saying, here are 3 different ideas for your client or 10 different ideas, managing those things has been a headache. And while there are some workarounds with renovation filters and with layers, if they actually have design options, that in itself, I think, will be, very, very useful for a lot of cases. So I'm excited about that. I hope that they have it in 27 and that it's does what it needs to be. Other stuff, I don't know, distance guides. Yeah, I mean, I guess this probably it will be useful on screen. Can you place something this distance from here without it? Absolutely, but seeing it on screen, probably is a useful thing. Better search function. Well, I love the search function in 26 that they added. At first I thought, oh, it's not a big deal, but now I use it regularly. Just type in something in your layer dialog, you can find the name of the layer or layers that have that text, or library parts, of course, etc. So, they have a bunch of things. Now, the updated GDL editor, I am a programmer, in background. I will appreciate that. I don't do much programming, but I think they're color coding stuff, and, they may be having some more visual cues there. Yeah, actually, when I looked at this when it first came out, they didn't have as many in the coming soon. They've now added a lot more. So look at that. That would be a key thing, is just, is what they say coming soon going to be useful to you? For me, I would say design options, if they did it right, I would say absolutely get it. So anyway, that's my note there for Rob. Let's open up Rob's line, see if you have any other related comments or questions. So your line is open, Rob.
Evening, Eric.
Hey, so where are you calling in from, Rob?
Just south of Manchester in the UK.
Okay, so it's evening time there, getting pretty late.
Yeah,
did you have any other questions about things?
No, I mean, like I say, as always, it's a pleasure to, watch in on some of these events, and then every now and then I just get triggered a question. I think, I'll just ask Eric about the next version of Archicad, because I've been recently prompted. Do I want to spend another £1,000 for the forward program? Did we really get something useful this year? It took a long time for Graphisoft to get that one across the line, and I appreciate they did, but it just seemed to take forever, and it's very frustrating, particularly when you're working on 2 machines. You've got an Intel machine and you've got an Apple Silicon machine as well. So it was just, shall I, shan't I? And I think what I've just seen there, what you're talking about there, the roadmap. Yeah, I work on a lot of renovation stuff, existing buildings, giving, client an opportunity to rethink their property in a different way with extensions. It's quite it's quite a common theme in the UK. Improve, don't move is the mantra. And one of the problems with the renovation tool, there's many problems with the renovation. It's fantastic, but there's many problems with the renovation tool when you're doing something like, and I've just seen what you've just described there, a double height window. You can't do it. It's not impossible, but you have to, in inverted commas, fiddle Archicad to demonstrate it. So you can
talk about that particular thing. Your point is well taken. In general, renovation filter is limited. I'll say the thing that I'm most frustrated by is if you wanted to remove cladding and put a different cladding on the wall, you have to basically either have a separate wall that's the cladding and do that. So you have to either do that or you just say that, well, we're removing this old type of wall and we're putting in a new one, even though you're not actually deleting, or demoing the framing. But the one that you mentioned in terms of a double height window, you can draw walls that are double height, or you can have multi-story walls. And in general, they seem to work pretty well. Now, if the wall is one color down below and one, a different cladding up top or different construction, then you use a complex profile. And so then, you're essentially drawing a wall section as your wall definition. But you can then have a window that goes through both walls, etc. So, that may be something that you haven't spent time looking at, is multi-story walls, because that can simplify it.
Yeah.
Eric, how did you get to this webpage?
I'm sorry, what was that?
How did you get to this webpage?
I did a search for Graphisoft Archicad roadmap.
Oh, okay.
Just do a search for that. You can also look up at the top here, graphisoft.com/product-roadmap, and then /coming-soon was this part. The previous one was, graphisoft.com/product-roadmap. So there you go. And then coming soon is where I clicked on it. Okay, so Rob, anything else at the moment?
No, not at this moment, but thanks very much, Eric. Thanks very much.
Yeah, my pleasure. So I see a note from Karen Anderson about that the African-American man that was referenced in this story about something the Lord made, who was the co-created, I'm going to say, open heart surgery, was a man named Vivian Thomas, I don't know, Vivian. So I believe a man, he was a carpenter, not a janitor. Okay, he trained under Alfred Blaylock and became a highly trained surgeon. There is a book, Partners of the Heart. I'm reading it now. And she said, I'm glad you mentioned it. So, okay. And then Karen says, thank you for letting us know about the new Mac you have. I've been wondering about that as I'm getting ready to purchase a new Mac too. So let me open up your line, Karen. Let's see here. So your line is open, Karen. So in previous years, I've kept my computer for longer. I mean, sometimes I've had it as long as 5 years between changes, but the last 2 generations I've done 3 years. And both times I felt like, oh, good, because my computer just seemed to be slowing down a lot. So I'm very happy about it. Big performance boost. I went for the top of the line MacBook Pro. So this baby is like $7,000. I've never spent that much. Of course, $7,000 in current dollars, what is that? 20 years ago, that might be like $3,000. I don't know, whatever it is. But anyway, it's a lot. But I figured, well, even if I only have it for 3 years and I just said $200 a month for 3 years, okay, $200 a month, I have, great tool. And I did put it on the Apple card. Apple had a nice little thing saying, you can have a year of financing, no charge. So I'm paying for it over 12 months. Anyway.
Well, thank you, Eric. I thought that was really important, as I know a lot of us invest in our hardware. So I was really glad that you mentioned that. And like I said, I'm looking right now for the MacBook Pro, and I was also looking at the cost and thinking, what that investment would mean. But I agree with you, because when you divide that cost over the time frame that you keep the hardware, it kind of works itself out.
Well,
so
you can rationalize it, certainly. $200 a month for a working tool, given how much I earn, it's noticeable, but it's not like outrageous. And And
You just-
yeah,
Can you provide a little bit more information? You said you got the top of the line one.
so it's got 96 gigabytes of RAM. It's got an 8 terabyte solid state drive. Those are the two big things that were the big bump ups. I think the 8 terabyte solid state drive like added $2,000 to it, or something crazy, like that was. But I had a 4 terabyte drive, and I was literally always had only 300 or 400 gigabytes left, so it was like 90% full. And I thought, all right, let me just get the one where it has plenty of room. Now it's funny because I have this iPhone here. So this is a 10s Max, so it's like 5 years old. And it's getting slow, and the battery is sort of no longer as efficient. So I'm ready for when, the iPhone 15 comes out, I'll probably get that. But I bought the high level of memory, 256 gigabytes. I've hardly used, I don't know, maybe I've used 60 gigabytes of it or something. Like the memory, I didn't end up using that much, on the phone. So that was, in retrospect, I overspent that way. But with the computer, I do a lot of video processing. I do, I create a lot of video materials, and that takes up a lot of space. So I set myself up where I don't have to worry about hitting my head on the ceiling for a while.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So as I mentioned, you asked how often do you upgrade your Mac? I've been doing it every 3 to 5 years, but 3 years, 2020, 2017, previous one might have been 2012, something like that. Yeah. So, all right. So Morgan wrote ARM processor is reduced instruction set computer RISC. So yeah, that's another acronym. And then Rob says, sorry, you're right, it's Apple Silicon and not ARM. ARM was an old Apple chip, but I think that they still use that term. I'm not sure. And it must have to do with, some acronym. Okay, so Ron has a question about how do you transfer topo lines to Archicad and use 3D? All right, we can spend a little time on, we're getting to close to the 2-hour mark, but we can finish up with Ron's question. And Morgan says, instead of, as opposed to reduced instruction set computer RISC, Intel is CISC, complex instruction set. Ultimately, I think the reduced instruction set, what it does is the chip has fewer different things that it can do, different variations, but it can do them more efficiently because it's sort of simpler. And so maybe it's like spinning faster, but it uses less power. I'm not quite sure. All right, and Morgan says, what's the best way to represent sloping terrain that gets cut by the floor plan cutting plane? All right, so we actually have 2 questions related to topographic stuff. So I'm gonna switch gears. We'll have Ron and Morgan on here. So let me so Ron, your line is open, and Morgan, I had opened it earlier, I think. Yep, so both of you can click on your microphone when you wanna talk.
Yes, I thought I read somewhere, maybe on the internet, that you could transfer the lines from a topographic map into Archicad, and I wasn't sure if then you could use the morphing tool to take the topographic information to the morphing tool.
Okay, so yeah, I'll be happy to go into topographic stuff. I'm just going to say to Steve, I'll send you your file. I've just saved, a version after the work I did. You'll have, of course, excuse me, the schedule that you can study. You'll also be able to watch the recording of this and see how I made changes. So if you want to do it in another file, leave this one alone, that's fine. Or of course, I don't think I messed anything up in your file. You could just take this and just continue on working.
All right, thanks, Eric.
So we'll do. So let us see here. So this one, this I answered that question there. Let's just go to the general thing here. So I've got a little building with nothing very interesting at all, of course, just a box. Let's just talk about a topographic contour. So first of all, so we had two questions. So Ron, how do you transfer topo lines to Archicad and use 3D? So where are you getting the topo lines?
From a survey.
So you have a survey that's in DWG or what other format?
No, it's just I downloaded it from the government USGS website.
Okay, so is it a PDF or what?
Probably, yeah. Find it here real quick.
All right. Now, is it easy enough for me to just go to that site and pick a location and just get it? Or does it require a whole rigmarole?
Yeah, it's pretty easy to.
All right, then you guide me because I'd like to see where you can get, these sort of things. So this is USGS.
You can, like, it's so easy. You just, you go onto the map and then you zero in on a location and it finds the map and gives you.
Okay, so what would I, okay, USGS topo maps, I see. As soon as I typed in USGS, it suggested, hey, maybe you're looking for topo maps, all right? So topographic maps, US Geological Survey. Get topo maps, learn more. Here, all right, so we can get these things, free custom one using an application. So let's just get an immediate download map locator on this. Let's pick what would be a place that,
Two of them.
What was it?
The easiest one is ngmdb.usgs.government.
Oh, okay, so you're reading off something that I have to type in here. So what was it?
ngmdb.usgs.government.
Yeah.
And /topo view /viewer.
All right, so let's see, I've got, say, topo view /viewer.
Yeah.
No, that didn't quite work. So is it topo -view or?
No, government /topo view /viewer I've got #9 / and then coordinates of my last one I was looking up in Oregon.
Well, if you want to copy and paste that into the go to webinar chat area, I can copy it.
I'm using my cell phone.
All right, so I just went to topo view here. So get maps.
If you go to get maps, yeah, there we go. Then you got the United States, and you can zoom in anywhere in the United States.
All right,
and
so let's so I'll just go in my area. So I am
and then you can click on the area and it'll highlight the maps for that area, and then they'll have a list of every map from 1900 to 2023 as they update the maps every year, and you can download those maps.
All right, so okay, so these are fairly big maps here. Okay, so I've got at least an area there. Now I've got this selected, and I've got the maps from all these years. All right, let's get a current one, 2021 here, and then show info zoom pen. So how do you download it? Oh, here, download GeoPDF, JPEG. Right. All right. So now I see 3 of these formats, JPEG and PDF and TIFF, are all graphics. So they're just line work. KMZ would be a digital file that would have elevation information. Let me start with a PDF, and then we'll see about the KMZ, because I'm not sure whether we can import it directly into Archicad. But I'll do this. So here is a PDF, okay, so here is a PDF, and I mean, I can see it looks like an aerial view. I don't see topo lines.
That might be just that you selected.
So let's go back to here. So GeoPDF is what I had.
I clicked on the year date ones, but you're trying to save it in different formats?
Well, I'm just saying, you wanted to say we have a PDF, and so you know, it looks like it's a map. I don't see contour lines. It says US topo, but I didn't see that. If I zoom in and info, I don't know.
Maybe if you zoom in closer, it might give you more choices of maps.
Well, it's just showing all of these. Here's Petaluma. I don't know. Let's just do this one. See if by any chance this. All right. So here's a contour line, a map. All right, old classic. All right. So this is a little crazy. Do you have one that that you're working with that you just can send me to support?
Yeah, maybe.
While you do that, I'm going to just save this. Actually, I guess it must have opened it up from my computer.
So the ones that I opened up, I opened up as a JPEG, but you're saying we can open them up as a different file format than a JPEG?
So I've got, this is the PDF that I'm just looking at right now. So this one is here. I bring up the preview. This one is a blank. Well, this one, I can't quite see the contour lines. I see street lines, but I don't see contours there. So I think, I'll bring this in and just show you how to scale it, but ultimately it's not going to be very useful to try to do a contour map of a huge area like this. We want something that.
I just imported them as a photo and used it as a underneath layer, but then I had to trace all of the topo lines, which took forever.
You do have to do that, or all the ones that are relevant. So let me just bring in this into the Archicad environment here. So I'm going to go and say that I'd like to. Now I can place this onto the plan, but in general, what I would recommend is that you put it into a worksheet. Why? Because with a worksheet, you can use it as a trace that you work on top of, but you can also hide and show it instantly using the virtual trace commands. So if I go to the worksheets, right click and say new independent worksheet here, and I'll just say topo here. Now the scale, this is 1/4 inch to a foot. If we have text, if this was something related that we were dealing with the text, you may want to change the scale before you bring it in. I'm just going to do 1 inch equals 1,000 feet because this is like such a huge topo here. Now I'll go to the file menu and say I'd like to place external content, place an external drawing. What type of drawing will I get? I'll say, yeah, just show me anything that could be a drawing, and we'll see that in the so it's CA Petaluma here. So if I here's CA Petaluma, this one here. Open that. I'll just put it on the origin, and we can see, yeah, you know, it came in. It looks, you know, interesting, but it's not. We don't know what scale it is. All right, now what scale was this? It says contour interval is 25 feet. The scale is 1 to 62,500, right? Okay. Right now, what scale am I in? 1 to 62,500. So I'm actually not too far off. I'm off by a factor of.
I then just
I
used the scaling measurement at the bottom of the map to stretch the map out to the size of the floor plan that I wanted.
Yeah, that's what you'd have to do. Now, obviously, this is so huge that its level of accuracy is going to be, you know, questionable. But if I select this and go to the edit menu, reshape, I can say that I'd like to resize this. And when you resize it, you can say, I don't know exactly what percentage I want it to be. I want to define it graphically and say that the distance from the 0 to here, instead of being 4,050 feet, which is what it's reading, it's going to be 4 miles, which would be, 20,000 feet, and then 280 would be 21,120. I think I'm just going to do 21,120 feet. See, now everything got much bigger. You know, so it's now going to be more in scale. If I were to measure from the 0 here to this 4 miles, it says 21,000, you know, approximately feet. So this would be approximately in scale. You'd want to make sure that you zoom in on these points. And clearly this type of a map is not as accurate for doing building design.
Too,
It's
right?
something that would be smaller. So this is an edge case, I would say. So I'm going to say, do you have something? And Morgan, if you want to open up your line, do you have a terrain model, a terrain thing that you can send me? Because you asked the question about what's the best way to represent sloping terrain that gets cut by the floor plan cutting plane. And that sounds like you have a file that might be.
Yeah. Yeah, I do have a few.
Want to pick one that where the question would be relatively, what would be relevant?
Okay.
And if you can send it to me via Dropbox link or WeTransfer, either email that link to me and support@bobrow.com, or paste the link into the GoToWebinar chat.
Okay.
Because I think I can demonstrate and talk about you know, a number of things with a real file rather than doing something crazy like this from the USGS. So let me just talk conceptually for a minute here. Ultimately, if you're bringing in graphic data, you want to make sure it's scaled properly. So that's what I was doing here. More often, you know, you're going to have something that's, instead of being 4 miles across, is going to be a few hundred feet, or, you know, something like that. But you'll want to make sure that it scales. Now, if it is a PDF and it has a scale that you know of ahead of time, you can set your scale. I set this to be 1 to 1,000 feet. The scale, if I had set it to be 1 to 2,500, if I set it to be the 1 to 62,500, it probably would have come in perfect. In fact, let's just see that. This is 1 to 62,500. So I'm going to get rid of this thing that I resized, and I'll just say, I'd like to set this to 1 to 62500. Okay. We don't see any change here. Now, when I bring this in, external content, place external drawing, go get that same one and place it on here. If I were to measure this, so this is now, if I measure from here to here, well, it's 10,125. So that is 2 miles instead of 4. So oh, you know what? Archicad's maximum is 1 to 2,500. So I can't set the drawing scale to match this. This is an extreme case, but you get the idea that you can, by setting the scale to something that relates to the PDF, it will come in scale. So that's an important part of it. So how are we doing, Morgan, with getting a file over to me?
Oh, I'm working with a PC, so I'm on OneDrive as a way to share.
So OneDrive, can you send me a download link?
Yeah, I think so. I haven't done this yet.
Okay. All right.
If I set you up as a new,
Okay, so while you're doing that, Ron, are you still there?
Yeah,
Okay, so you mentioned that, hey, you did this thing and then you had to trace the topo lines. Yes, when you do it as a graphic, you have to trace the topo lines. Now, you don't have to have every topo line. You want to have the ones that are near the building relatively accurate. Ones that are further from the building can be, you can do every major top contour line or even multiple majors, because you just want the prevailing grade. You want it goes up towards the back. You don't need, unless you're doing cut and fill calculations that you need, really good data on, or you're cutting a section through the building and you want to see where the grade is going to be. You want more detail there. So don't feel that you have to do every line. Don't feel that you have to even follow all the nooks and crannies of the lines. You just want to have as much detail as you will see or benefit from. But so you know how to do that. How do you transfer topo lines? You scale it properly, build a mesh, and draw the trace over it. Now, if you bring it in as a DWG, you may find that you can magic wand, use the spacebar, click to trace the contour line. But the danger is that the contour lines generated by most of the software tools will have lots of little nooks and crannies, just because it looks good, but it gives you so much detail in terms of all the back and forth, that your contour, your terrain mesh becomes hugely complex. And so it can slow down the computer. Even on modern computers, you can bring it to a halt if you trace lots of contour lines. So that's why doing it manually, where you might do 10 or 20 or 50 points along a contour line, and not every single one, is much better than having it have hundreds of points along a contour line and doing every single one. Now you have 10,000 points and all of them have triangles, that are trying to match the grade more precisely than you need.
search your topo of La Jolla, which is, when you go on that website, you can zero in and get smaller maps than the one you had. But anyway, I sent you to support.bobrow.com. Is that right?
Support@bobrow.com. Yeah.
Yeah. I sent you one of La Jolla.
Okay.
I thought maybe there was a way that Archicad could read the topo lines and transfer the topo lines automatically, and then you could use the morphing tool. If you gave the lines a contour height, then the morphing tool would do that. But that's more advanced than Archicad, right?
Well, I would never use the morph tool for terrain modeling. I would always use the terrain mesh. The mesh.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see where's my, here. Okay, so here's my support thing. So here's Topo La Jolla. Okay, so let's just download this. All right, so that's something there. So that's for Ron. Okay, and then so Connie. Okay, I did open Connie's file. That's right. That was a long time ago. So Ron there. All right, let's open up this thing here. So in the Archicad file that we were playing around with, I've just deleted this. I'm going to go and bring in. Actually, not open. I want to place external content, place external drawing. I want to place this PNG here. All right, so we now have something, well, it's still got a huge area there. Now, what scale is this? I don't see anything immediately visible. So how would I know what scale it is?
Let me do that real quick. I wasn't ready for this, I guess, huh?
Well, obviously, these are questions that you have to determine one way or another. If you know, for example, the distance along a street here, you know, we could use that at any dimension. But the basic idea is that you're going to either set the scale before you bring it in, if you know that you have a PDF that is intended to be printed at scale. And we're getting some background noise here from somebody. You either set it ahead of time to match the PDF, or you look at a reference that you know that does show a scale and you scale it. So I'm just going to draw a polyline. You know, here's a building footprint. It would appear, right? And how many lines do you want? I'm doing it with a polyline tool rather than the mesh tool. But if I draw a line here. All right,
Yeah,
so
that's
I
what
just drew a line, and you can see that there are like 10 points there. It follows it close enough to be able to tell what's going on with the terrain. If you did an auto trace, you would, you know, you might end up with 100 points there because it's just zigging and zagging on minuscule amounts. So it really depends upon what you need. But next to the building, you'd have more detail. Further from the building, I'm just going to do this one and just say, you know, here, you know, I did 5 points there because it's far from the building, and I wouldn't even be looking at it other than just to say it's downhill or
Or
uphill.
view corridor, you know.
Okay, so I see Morgan has sent me something that's a link, OneDrive link. So let me go and do this here. See if I can download from that link. Okay, download this. So Morgan, what version of Archicad are you in?
26.
26, okay. So we're gonna open up that file. So I'm gonna just bail out of this one that I had just been demonstrating this, and I'll just open that file. So we'll say open here. So Ron, if you do have more specific questions and you want to send me a specific file, you know, that you're working on, you know, we can work, you know, in one of the coaching program calls, or, you know, if it was important enough, you could pay me on a consulting basis. Yeah, I think I've gone as far as I can just from the general concept here.
All right, thanks.
But nice to hear from you. Nice to, you know, be in touch. Yeah, I think, when did you start? You started with like Archicad 8 or something, right? Or way back when?
Probably or 7, I don't remember, a long time ago.
Yeah, so it's been a while. All right, so here we have a mesh, and here's an example of where, look at all these points, and look at all of these triangles.
Yeah.
And, you know, this is going up the hill. It's just way more points than it needs to represent the terrain. You know, all of these points along here, this here, are essentially in one straight line. You know, close enough, right? So anyway, I mean, Archicad is behaving just fine. I mean, I'm able to move around without a problem. But generally, this is an auto trace, and it's got way more detail than it needs. Now, that being said, do we really want to see this line work? I don't think it's needed to visualize it. So what I'll do is I'll go into the settings, and we have two ways to simplify this. One is in 3D, we can say that the ridge selection, do I want to show all ridges? That's, you see all of these things, or do I want to show only the user-defined ridges, which presumably are the contour lines? So if I change this, you know, this is, actually that's on the plan. I just want to focus first on 3D. So in 3D appearance, all ridges sharp, that's why we're seeing this. I'll say user-defined sharp, and then I'm going to make it all ridges smooth probably at the end. So I'll say user-defined sharp, I say okay. Now look at that. You know, it's nicer when we select it, but I don't even need to have it sharp in most cases for visualization purposes. So if I go in here and say all ridges smooth, now, although I can see the line work, it is, sorry, it looks smoother in the renderings here because it's creating a shading that looks smooth there. Now on the plan here, we've got all this line work. We have in the same dialog box, this is 3D, this is the plan, and I can say that on the outlines, do I want to show all ridges, which is all of these, or do I want to show just user-defined ridges, which would be the contour topo lines? See, now that's much nicer looking, right? Now we have another, this is a separate mesh that you had. I'll just go in and make those changes here. I'll say all ridges smooth in 3D and only show user-defined ridges here. And now much simpler. So that's one improvement just in terms of visualization. Morgan, were you aware that you had those options?
Oh yeah, totally. I was manipulating the topos, so I wanted to.
You wanted to see the details. Okay.
Yeah, that was
right.
all. And I was modifying it to scan data.
Right. Okay.
So I had a survey, I traced it and found out when I got there that they had changed everything. None of the topo lines really lined up with reality. So I was just in there dragging points. And,
okay. Well, this is what I did. I didn't destroy any data. I just simply changed its visualization. So you can do that. Now you said your question was, what's the best way to represent sloping terrain that gets cut by the floor plan cutting plane? So give me an example of where you want this to be viewed and what graphically you want to, how you want to represent it.
So at the height of the where the floor plan is cutting through the walls, I'd like to cut the terrain.
Oh, okay. So you want to cut the terrain by the building footprint.
Not by the, well, yeah, that I've done that by using solid element and the slab, but then that cut doesn't get represented in the plan. You still see the contour lines.
Okay. All right. So
In the
we
plan.
are seeing empty volume in here, whereas originally the grade, looks like it would have passed through that. And the reason you're, seeing it properly is because this piece of terrain is being cut. And this little symbol here indicates that it's got a, what do you call it, solid element operation. And when I click on this, it says it was subtracted related to that slab. So we can see the slab is outlined. And wherever that slab was, which, was the slab on grade, it removed where it intersected and everything above it, which created the airspace. We also had a separate one that's more in the back. You can just barely see the blue line. So yeah, that's perfectly, you're doing things the way that you need to do it to get that to show. Now you mentioned that you don't want to see the contour line on the plan. Let's say, for example,
the contour lines would be cut by that solid element operation,
Yeah. So the contour lines here, well, so I'm not seeing contour lines in the main body.
If you go to renovation status and go and turn on the new construction or plan status. Oh, it's on the ground floor, so you have to go up a level. Yeah.
All right.
So that view is being cut by a slab.
So this contour line here, you're saying is being cut?
It should be, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, the issue is that solid element operations do not get reflected on the plan.
Right.
And that's a limitation that's been around ever since solid element operations were introduced. What I would suggest is that this mesh, let me just select the mesh as a whole, that we consider putting it on in the back. Now it may already be in the back. I'm just going to say send to back. It says it's already on the back, so we can't do anything.
Yeah.
But let me just say, what if we were to put a fill that covers things up. Now
Okay.
we can, I'm just going to demonstrate it in two ways. Let's get rid of the marquee. So if I put a fill, and I'll just do this in the back here, and we make this fill, say, empty, but instead of being transparent, I make it opaque, and this fill is in front. Obviously, we're covering this up. Now the fill has an outline. I could turn off the outline. And now, if I wanted to have a certain color, I could match that color. So what is this color on the plan? The cover fill is 25% of 113, I guess. So if we wanted this to match, I could say take this and make it, it's going to be a drafting fill. It's going to be 25%, and it's going to be 113. Okay. So now you can see blends in. Okay. Now you can do that, and we can make this any shape that we want. Now, ideally, is there a slab here? Oh, there's a slab.
Yes.
Does the slab have a cover fill? Well, let's see. No cover fill. Yeah. Let's make the slab have a cover fill. Let's make it 25% of 113. And now, okay. So the slab, which is a 3D element, has a cover fill that's covering up the mesh.
If you could go to one of the building sections, I guess it's the same situation. You notice the fill covering like the footing on the left on the garage level. Is that sort of the same situation?
Well, wait a second. So this, you're talking about, is this a 3D thing here?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, what's this?
It's a beam representing a footing.
Well, all right, so here's the beam. All right, so let's just do a solid element operation. So we don't really want to use a graphic fill. We want to just actually excavate here, right? So if I go to the design, solid element operations, and say that I want this beam to be an operator, and I want the mesh to be the target, and subtract, execute.
Okay.
So that is actually removing the volume, and therefore we don't see the terrain in here. So in sections, it should be a live view. In plan, you were having to use a graphic cover up, which would be the cover fill.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing with, and I'm guessing, what is this? This is a
Gravel.
So this is gravel. And if you wanted this to be removed, well, there's going to be two questions here. Is gravel stronger than the dirt in terms of the way it interacts? And then secondly, so you can have things automatically intersect, or you can have them manually intersect. Now with terrain mesh, I don't think it does any automatic stuff. So we're just basically going to say, this is the operator. The terrain mesh is the target. And we're going to do subtraction, or subtraction with upward extrusion, but I'll just do subtraction now, execute, and there we go.
Sweet.
Okay.
Yeah, so anything that's just sort of, well, in the dirt, you do subtraction. Anything that's on top of the dirt and you want to have an empty space, you do subtraction with upward extrusion. I don't know why this one is this color and that one's a different color. Made
that's
out of
confusion.
What's that?
That's just I was working. That's like the first complex profile I've ever made, and it's all wrong in too many ways. I have to go through that process again.
Okay. All right, so that obviously clears up the graphics here quite a bit, you know, and you can decide well, right now it looks like a white background, but when I zoom back out, it sort of becomes colored looking just because the line work is so dense. This one, on the other hand, is colored. So if you want to have colors through here, that's fine. But if you wanted to have it white, then you could choose other settings. Just for example, if I go into the section settings, I could say that the model appearance or cut elements is, right now this is, what is it made of? Give me a non-shaded version. I'm just going to do a quick change here and say, what if I make it a uniform color, and the color is going to be, let's see, I don't know, air, something like that. Okay. Well, no, that's seeing through it. Let me undo that. Whoops, interesting. It took me back out of the view in order to, because I changed the settings of the section marker. If I go to section settings, cut elements, uniform cut pens here, cut foreground, cut background. Let's make this opaque, make this, say this is uniform surface. Interesting. This is color fill not shaded, like a surface color fill. Just wanted it to be an empty. It's interesting. Don't want it to be a surface. I just want it to be yeah. So this is interesting. Surface cut fill. Uniform, just cut fill, uniform cut here to say white. I'm experimenting here with this. I just want to say, well, you can see I messed up, but they're all more uniform here. Interesting. I was just thinking if we wanted to just have it pure white, you know, where we're cutting through, or pure red, or pure something like that. But I'm a little tired and not quite getting the result I wanted. All right, did you have any other questions about it, Morgan?
No, that was it. Just the fill is gonna probably save me.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Cover fill on the floor plan here. Again, for those of you who are still watching, just a quick review. This slab is in the display order. By default, it is on top of the mesh. Archicad has a default order, and I don't have to move it. I just have to make sure that the slab actually has a cover fill checked, and then I make it whatever I want, whether it's white or color here. And then make sure the background is, in this case, opaque, the window background, as opposed to transparent. And then, you know, it'll block out the original line work for the contours. All right, so you want me to send this back to you?
Oh no, I got it. Yeah, I understand.
Okay, cool. All right, so we went pretty long time, 2 hour, 25 minutes here. So thank you all for joining me today. Let me know if there's any other way I can help you be more successful with Archicad. If you'd like to get my help on a regular basis with coaching like this, answering questions, I have the Archicad coaching program. The Archicad coaching program you can join by going to archicadtraining.com/coaching. And you can just sign up there for a monthly or yearly membership. You can also get that as part of my Archicad training course, the Best Practices 2020 course. So if you go to archicadtraining.com, the homepage, you'll see a description of the course, and you do get membership in my coaching program as part of it. And then you can get my help whenever you need it. So thank you all for joining me. I'm glad to be here to help you and still be healthy and kicking after all of these years.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
There we go. Stay well, Eric.